1% of dudes rapping, they ain't nice as me. 98% ain't live the same type of life as me. The judge gave me life and then they sent me where the life is be. That level 4 with depth and vice, the type of stuff they like to see. Two choices, fight or flee. I refuse to die a chump. I never been a mark, but damn, it's scary when that riot jump. I seen dudes cry, get pumped, and some sexually brutalized. Knew a dude who lost his life and he was only doing 5 year-long racial fights when homie all you do is ride. Lonely days and nights up in a hole causing suicide. From the moment you arrive, you see the Mexican mafia, AB skinheads with big giant swastikas, pro-black philosophers, the BGF, the Kumi, and Muslims who will murk you from the nation to the Sunni. That MS was loony, quick to ride up on they rival. Even Christians went to church, hide knives up in a Bible. Political and tribal, the Crips and Damus, the Long Beach, the Hubs and the Dubs and the Grooves, the IE, the Bakersfield, the Dago Pyrus, the Hustlers quick to roll, the gangsters don't move. Whatever click you choose.
Say what's cracking, YouTube? It's your boy 16 to life, and I'm back like I'm on a parole violation. Yard down. Y'all already know what it is, man. We back on another interview, man, and y'all see the title. Yeah, I almost knocked out Ricc. So we got the homie KC in the house. What's going on, KC?
What's up? What's up, Big Chill?
Oh man, I'm just chilling, man. Hey, it's good to holler at you again, too, man.
Hey, you too. Long time no see, man.
Most definitely. So everybody, you know, if you keep up with Compton Ricc's page, a couple of days ago, Ricc did a story saying I almost got knocked out, and he was naming a couple people who was there, and this is the man he said that almost knocked him out. Then he said, man, that was so long ago. He said, I don't know, man, KC might be dead, who knows. Rest in peace, KC. The man had put you in the grave, gave you a funeral and everything, man. I said, oh man, KC's still alive and kicking, man. So I said, let me reach out to KC and see if I can bring him on here, man. So here he is, man.
Yeah. I don't know why he put me in the grave so early.
so KC, how long have you been out?
Since 2013.
Since 2013, yeah, because that was a while ago. I think that was back maybe about 2001, 2002. So you remember Ricc, right?
Yeah.
You remember the incident and all that old type of stuff?
I couldn't forget it if I tried.
Hey, so tell us, give us your version, because you told me a different version from what he remembered, right? So give me your version, man, of what happened.
Okay, Ricc was Compton's finest, right?
Right.
And he's a good dude, but he had some bad, I would say, mentorship.
Right.
And
so he was down there trying to push a hard line, huh?
Yeah, he was, because a lot of people, you know how it go. People come to prison and other people pump them up, and they think they have to live the prison life that they think is prison life, but it's really not.
Right.
And so he tried to become the bully on the yard, and no nonsense and all of that stuff. And he decided, because we were in the bakery, and all the prisons had became sugarless. So when there's no sugar in prison, in the bakery we had sugar.
Real sugar, right.
Real sugar. And people would buy sugar, and all the winemakers and lightning makers would buy sugar for $200 a pound.
Right.
So if you didn't have nobody sending you money, that's how we hustle.
And let me just stop you real quick and explain to people that's never been to prison. Like he said, man, the prison had became sugarless. They had took the real sugar due to people making Pruno, making white lightning. Dudes would get drunk, want to fight the police, want to fight each other, so on and so forth. If you haven't been to prison, you may not realize the importance of having real sugar, and then for your coffee, for the dudes who made tea and all types of stuff. So yeah, that was an extremely hot commodity. And where he was working in the main kitchen, not the kitchen building that's on the yard. He was working behind, they used to call it work exchange. He had to go back there, and that's where all the main foods was, and all that type of stuff.
Yeah, we would cook for the entire facility. And we had powdered sugar, and we had real granulated sugar. And all the winemakers would buy the sugar for $200 a pound. And Ricc seen us making money, and he decided that he wanted in on the sugar on the sugar thing. So he told his homeboy out of Compton, from now on, when you get sugar, half of it belongs to me.
So
And
once again, Rick Rock was back there on his bully tip, huh?
yeah, he was. He really was. And he came to me and he said, because his homeboy said, okay, I'll give you half of my sugar. And then he came to me and was like, from now on, when you get half, I want half of yours. Well, I'm old school. I can't do that. And I told him. And so one incident led to another. We went to pushing each other and talking. And I looked at him and I said, are you serious? And he said, yeah. I told him, let's go back in the cart wash. The food carts. They had a
Right.
cart wash back there where you wash the carts. I said, let's go back there. He said, no, get down where you get mad at. So he pushed me. I pushed him back. I looked at him and I said, are you serious? Mind you, Rick Rock is about 21, 22. He's about 6'1". I'm in my mid 50s.
Sorry to cut you off, but Rick Rock, he also had a nice little size on him back then too.
Oh yeah, he worked out. He was chunky. He was kind of he was in shape.
Right.
If we had weights, Rick Rock probably would have had some 22-inch arms.
Yeah, he was
Okay.
he was a big youngster, and like you say, especially for the fact that we didn't have weights. All we had was dip bars, pull up bars, and could do push ups. Some dudes would make a big sandbag out of sand, but yeah, due to the fact that we didn't have no weights, he was extremely, he was a big dude.
Right. And I told him, I said I can't do it. He pushed me. I pushed him back. He pushed me again. I said, are you serious? And I pushed him. And I used to box. Okay. So when he came at me to push me again, I thought he was swinging. Now, anybody been to prison know how prison works. I hit him with a straight left jab, a straight right, and a left hook. That was it.
So you served him, and that's crazy, right? Because your name is KC, and so it's close to KFC. So you served him with the old KC 3-piece, huh?
So, left, right, left hook, and he went
Right.
down. He went down. His eyes rolled in the back of his head. Did he pass completely out? No.
Uh-huh.
But his eyes rolled in the back of his head. He was. You've seen those fighters when they go down, they're not completely knocked out where they sleep, but they're down. They can't get back up.
But he was woozy,
And
huh?
he was real woozy. And
So let me
what
ask
happened
you this,
was,
right? Let me ask you this. Let me interrupt one time more. So when he came talking about I need half of your sugar and all this and that. So before then, you and Rick Rock, y'all had a good rapport. So you that's why you kept asking him, are you serious? You thought he was playing, right?
yeah, we was cool.
Yeah.
We were really, we wasn't friends, but we was cool. We was cordial, polite to each other, and all of that stuff. So when he did that, I'm like, he has to be joking. And his homie payroll told him, said, hey man, he's not the one you want to do that to. I was with him on the 4 yard. All that dude do is fight. And Rick Rock told him, oh, you just scared of him. So when he did it, I did what I had to do, and you know, uh, it ended the way it did.
Right, because
And
Rick Rock also said that used to hit the bag all the time, and I had forgot that you used to hit the bag. He mentioned that Brick used to hit the bag a lot. I definitely remember Brick hitting the bag, but then
yeah,
once he said it, I did remember. Okay, yeah, KC did used to go over there and hit the bag too.
right. I used to train a lot of those guys that was in the gym, because the gym was a free fall. You had to fight in the gym. And
Right,
so I trained a lot of guys in the gym, and and I tell everybody, once you know how to fight, you don't like to fight.
right,
And a lot of those guys, when they went in and got in the fight, they was like, "You right, I don't like to fight," because if you know how to fight, when you fighting somebody, it's like fighting a high school kid, and it don't seem fair.
right,
So, and that's what happened with me and Rick Rock. And then later on, we talked about it, and he told me, he said, "I didn't know you used to box," and I said, "Yeah." And he asked me to train him, and so I gave him a few pointers and watched him hit the bag, and gave him direction and stuff. But we became cool after that.
right. And so KC, me and you, we was in the same building. We just so happened to be in the same building. And I don't know if you remember. I'm pretty sure you do. We used to play basketball together all the time too.
Yeah, I remember all of that.
Yeah, used to
I
be
remember
out there.
you used to. I remember you used to win all the little rap things on the yard. I remember everything.
Right. I used to clown you about your defense because sometimes you be out there, you intertwine basketball and football by the way by the way you play that defense. 'Cause for y'all that don't
Yeah,
know, KC is probably about 5. I would say what KC is maybe about 5'6", and he probably was maybe about 225 back then. Real stocky. Had
yeah,
had had got a little weight on him, but he was still strong and stocky and short to the ground. So yeah, bro, KC was pretty strong. I didn't realize that you was in your early 50s. I thought that you was probably in your late 40s. I did remember you being a little older, but I didn't realize you was in your 50s back then.
yeah. I was. I'm 68 now.
I didn't realize you was that old back then. So KC, do you remember now? Um, about when we got into the riot with the Asians and we was out there
Yeah,
watching the basketball tournament and John come to find out John had made a bet with the Asian over whether the Lakers would make the playoffs or not. And then the Asian came and
right.
told John maybe about a month or two into the bet, hey man, I'm getting transferred. So I'm leaving. So John said, well, hey man, pay me, man, you gotta pay me. But the agent is telling him the bet is not over yet. The Lakers still could make the playoffs. And John wasn't
Yeah,
trying to hear that. John was being thirsty, I think, and wanted his bread. So John went and hollered at one of the Asians, and I guess he told him, well, yeah, man, you can fight the dude one-on-one. And John went down there, I guess, and asked for the bread again. And when the Asian said, I ain't paying you, John didn't tell him, well, hey, man, your homie said I can fight you because the Asian is around other Asians in front of the building. They over there chilling or having a spread or whatever they was doing. It was a bunch of them. And so
right.
you remember that half-head. So I guess John fired on him and they started fighting. So
Yep,
where they was at was maybe about 15 or 20 feet away from where we was at.
exactly.
So I looked over there. When I looked the first time, I don't even realize it's John. And then half-head say, man, y'all don't look over there, because of course he don't want everybody looking over there. Then everybody start looking over there, and the police will know that they fight.
Right, right.
But of course, human nature, homie. I had to glance. It's a fight going on. Everybody want to see a good fight. So once I peek over there
Yeah,
again, I recognize it's the homie John. From my particular car. I said, "Oh hell
yeah,
no, that's the homie." I
yeah.
flew over there and we got active. You said you looked over there, and you saw Asians coming all across the table and everything, huh?
Man, they were jumping across the tables, doing kung fu and karate and stuff, and I'm like, what? And I seen y'all take off. So once you see one black run toward the incident, all the blacks start running toward the incident, right?
Yeah,
And it was crazy because anybody who been to prison know that Asians, you might have maybe, if you're lucky, 50 Asians on the yard, and that's pushing it.
yeah.
You
I don't
know,
like you say. I
you
don't think that many.
yeah, usually there'll be around 15 to 25. You know
Right,
what I mean? But certain prisons, like way up north, you might have 50.
right.
So they were short. They had about, I say about 20, 25 agents there, and they got cracking, and all the blacks ran over there. So it was like lions on a gazelle. You know what I
Right.
mean? They they were trying to get away at that point.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I remember I was in pursuit. I was squabbing and just doing my thing, and I happened to look up, and it was an Asian dude by the name of Jason. He was running, and he fell, man. And man, I must have ran up on Jason and pop, kicked him in the face and stuff. And man, luckily for Jason, though, because I used to have on them orthopedic boots, and I had bad feet, so I had on them orthopedic boots. So that was a little
Yeah.
softer than if I would have had on them state boots. He really would have been in trouble.
You know why Jason fell, right?
No,
Halfhead was behind him, and Halfhead kicked his back foot.
Oh, okay.
And when he kicked his back foot, it crossed and he flipped and fell. Then yeah, that was it for him.
Yeah, because like
That
I
was
say,
it for
I'm
him.
swabbing doing my thing. I look up, I just see Jason on the ground, like, oh, okay, And I
Yeah,
did feel a little bad afterwards, especially because, like me, Jason wore glasses, right? And so I know if you really need your glasses, it's hard to get glasses in there. If you can't see and you got bad vision, it might take 2 or 3 months to get your glasses up in there. So afterwards,
you're absolutely
I
right.
did feel a little bad about that, man.
Yeah, you're right. You're right.
And initially, when I ran over there, I'm thinking that it's the blacks and the Southsiders, because that was the first time I'd ever seen the blacks get into it with the Asians, right? So when you look back and you see a black dude fighting brown people, I just automatically assumed it was the Southsiders. But then once I get over there and I go to Swab, and then I realize, damn, this is the Asians.
Yeah. I think that's why it didn't last that long because, man, we really don't get into it with the Asians that much.
Right.
You know what I mean? If at all. That's the first time I ever remember us getting into it with the Asians.
And then, well, and I was gonna say, well, like any other prison too, we had good rapport with the Asians down there because we all, played basketball together. We was all on the same side of the day room and stuff. And so, yeah, that was probably one reason why it didn't, after they let us out, it didn't escalate and continue to go on because and also, like I said too, one of the Asian dudes had told John he could get the head of Faye. But now when John go down there and fire on the dude, the other Asians, knowing that no race is supposed to put their hands on another race, they just jumped up and did what they were supposed to do. They handled their business like they were supposed to.
Yeah. Didn't nobody get mad. It's just that, when stuff like that happen on the yard, like I know, it just, you see your people getting busy, you get busy.
Right. They just, they just follow suit. And so another time, you may remember, right? We was in the building and I told a story about this too, y'all. So if you haven't seen it, check it out. I believe the name of it is Poker Game Leads to Lefts and Rights. And one of my homies was over there gambling with a dude, and come to find out, we found out all this later on, man. He was gambling with a dude by the name of Devil. And Devil was from the OVG area somewhere, man. And Devil had done about 14, 15 years, and Devil was getting ready to go home, and he didn't really have much to parole to, and he was kind of just, that was on his mind, like, what the hell am I going to do when I get out? Because I had heard him say that maybe about a week ago. He said, man, I don't even want to go home. So at the time I got life, I'm thinking, man, who the hell don't want to go home? I just couldn't, I couldn't understand what he was talking about, and I couldn't understand why he didn't even say that, because I'm sitting up in there, and you had life too, KC. We dying to go home. What this dude talking about? He don't want to go home. But so he was kind of stressing, because for an individual, if you don't got family and stuff out there, man, they kick you out the door with $200, and that's it.
That's it. Yeah.
So now I can understand. Okay, he was worried about where he was gonna stay, how he was gonna eat, and then by him being from the Los Angeles area, way down there in Blythe, he was gonna use most of that money on a bus ride home and some. You gotta buy some clothes because if ain't nobody sending you no clothes, then you gotta purchase clothes from the state.
And when you get home, you got about $20 left.
Yeah, so he had a lot of concerns that I didn't realize back then. So when him and my homie and a few other dudes, they over there playing poker at the poker table, just so happened that day Devil happened to win. And so a lot of times, they'll come with their buy-in, maybe $20 to buy in, and then the rest of the money, if you lose, you just put it on paper. Okay, I'm down $70, and then the winner, okay, well, Chill, you owe 15, KC, you owe me 20, my Head, you owe 30. So when he went to Head to get his money, and Head asked Head, when you gonna pay it? Head said, well, how much do I owe? And Devil said he wouldn't look at him in the eye or whatever, man. And Head was a small dude like myself back then. And so me and the homie Polo from 1180 East Coast, we playing dominoes. And all of a sudden I hear booty, booty, booty. I looked up, Head was over there sitting on the ironing board, man. He didn't two-piece Head. Head was nothing but about 5'7", 140. He did knock Head off the ironing board. So I look over there and I see Head laying upside down with his feet is up here by his ears, right? So I look at my homie Polo. I look at Polo. I said, man, I know that they can't be horse playing. So I run over there. I said, Head, what's up, homie? Did he hit you? And Head is out of it. I said, Head, did he hit you? Head is going like this. They can't even talk, man. So then I slid up on Devil. I asked him, hey man, you hit the homie? I said, what happened? He said he wouldn't look at me in the eye. And that really infuriated me because that's what my father used to say. Like, boy, look me in the eye when I'm talking to you. So I'm thinking in my mind, man, who the hell is you? Talking about you fired on the homie because he wouldn't look in you in the eye. And then Head held his head down and said, man, I never said I wasn't going to pay you. And just me knowing Head, I already knew that head was getting ready to fire on him because I wanted to go get the knife to keep it 100, you know.
Yeah,
And so
yeah, yeah,
when head fire on him, pow, I get off on him. Boop, pop, boop, pop. I, grab him by the neck, and I'm thinking that we're going to have a lot of trouble out of Devil because Devil was maybe about 6'2", maybe about 210, 215. He had some nice weight.
yeah,
And he used to be
yeah,
on the basketball court talking shit. Man, you better not
yeah,
foul me and all that. So I'm thinking we supposed to have a fight about a Devil.
yeah.
Yeah,
I
Devil
looked
laid
over there,
down.
man. I looked
Go
over
ahead.
there. Y'all was whooping his ass. I was like, "What the hell going on now?" Like,
Yeah.
and I'm looking at Polo, and I'm looking at you and Head. I'm like, they beating his ass over there. Yeah,
Yeah, man. And then so that's KC and me and you was talking the other day, and that's a trip, man. Back then when you in that environment, everything is going on. Prison is prison, man. And back then you had a lot of, in my opinion, you had a lot of solid dudes, right? A lot of dudes who was able to accept the time due to the life that we was living, right? And a
yeah,
lot of us down there had life, and now, man, we was down there, doing whatever we was doing, and now pretty much all of us is out, homie. All of us is out.
yeah, 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 for real.
Yeah.
L, remember the L used to play basketball?
Buy yourself hustlers. Yeah. L.
Yeah, he's out. Ty
Ken
Bud
Vaughn
is
from
out.
Great.
Yeah, Penn Wine is out. Everybody had life back then is out.
Prentice from Great. Half Head is out
Rennet,
from Insane. Pep from
yep,
Insane is out. My homie Head is
yep,
out. Yeah, every seem
yep,
like all the lifers back there, man. Everybody is out, man. And me, different lifers had different feelings about going home and paroling. Me having life, I never thought that I was ever gonna get out. What about you, KC? Did you think you was gonna get out or?
no, because I had 50 years of life. So you got to remember, they gave me 50 to life. I was already in my 50s when I came to prison. So, if I had to do a minimum of 50 years, I don't think I was going to be alive past 70 or 80.
Right,
So, uh, my mentality was, just live the best life you can live while you here.
right.
Make the best of your situation.
And so, real quick, how did that feel, homie? Because, like you mentioned, you was already 50, and then you got sentenced to 50 to life. Of course, we do the math. You ain't. Most people ain't gonna live to be no 100, and even if you do, you ain't gonna. Your quality of life is not gonna be much. You're gonna be taking 2 steps at a time and get tired and sit down for 10 minutes. So, what was that like
Yeah.
going through your mind? Like, damn, man, they just gave me 50 to life at the age of 50.
I didn't really think about it because um certain people think about it and they take it out on other people. You know what I mean? You had a bunch of lifers around there that was mad because they had life, and I always looked at it because like my kids at the time, my oldest son used to always tell me, he said, I want to be like you when I grow up. And I told him, no, don't be like me. I said, you looking at me make money now, but understand one thing, there's always consequences to everything you do. I said, now when it's time to pay the consequences, a lot of people don't like paying the consequences. And then when he seen me get all that time, he said, I understand what you're saying now. And they gave me an opportunity to go home. The feds came to see me because I got locked up for credit card fraud.
Mm-hmm.
So ATF, DEA, Secret Service, all of them came at me and they asked me to roll over on my brother-in-law, and they would take me from the state, put me in the feds for 3 years, and let me go. And I couldn't do it. And even though he set me up and ratted me out, I just couldn't do it.
Right,
And everybody wanted to know why he told on you first, man. I would tell that's not the way the game go. And like I know, and everybody who's doing time know. Look, man, you got to man up, stand 10 toes down on what you believe in. You know what I mean? That's what I believe in. You know what I mean? I did it, and I think I'm one of the only guys in prison ever that did what they. I did exactly what they said I did.
right.
You know what I mean? I didn't never admit to it, but everything they said I did in court, I did it. You know what I mean? So I wasn't mad for being in jail. You know
and
what I
and
mean?
and, and that's not, I hate to interrupt, homie, but that's one thing I wanna say, right? Because I remember, I go to the same rap studio, and so when I was introduced to the dude, I told him I'd done 24 years. He used to ask me a bunch of questions, and he said, "Oh man, well, everybody snitches, right?" And I said, "No, man, you have a lot of individuals, especially from our generation and before, because you're like maybe 10 or 15 years before my generation." I said, "But you
Right.
had dudes who really believed in what they was doing, man, and I was somewhat like you in the way I dealt with life. I didn't think about it. I was just like you, man. I didn't think about it, and I also knew that it was a consequences of the things that we was out there doing. And I used to
Yep.
trip on dudes who would be in there, call themselves Crips or Bloods or whatever, and now you crying about the time that you got. It comes with the territory. None of us want to go to jail, but
No.
it comes with the territory. And if you're willing to take the chance, you got to dance the dance if you get caught.
Yep. I used to tell people I would smile. I smile when I was winning. Now you got to smile when you lose because
Same.
nobody's always up, but nobody's always down.
Right.
Life is a roller coaster, so you mean enjoy the ride. And so
And
I couldn't get mad at nobody for decisions I made.
right. And that's the way I felt. And I was gonna ask you, KC. I want you to keep it 100, KC. Because I
Huh?
think me and you might have been on the yard a couple of years or whatever. Did you ever see
Yeah.
me mad or every? Was I laughing and giggling and joking every day?
The whole time. You know
The
what I mean? I never see, and that's the thing. That's why I didn't know you had life because people used to ask me how much time I got. I got life. Oh, I'm sorry for what, man? That you got life? You didn't give me life. You wasn't a
right,
judge to say I'm giving you. What am I? What do you got to be sad about? You know what I mean?
right,
And they
right,
would always tell us. They would always tell us, y'all don't act like you have life. How are you
right.
supposed to act?
And that's what Cat used to say to me, and that's what I was like, man,
Yep.
how are you supposed to act? They used to tell me that when I was in the county because I got sentenced to life in the county, but I still had another murder case. So, a lot of people would say, damn, chill, you already got a life sentence. You don't act like you got life. And so
Yep.
how is a dude with life supposed to act?
Yeah. Yeah. Cause see, until now, I never knew you had life.
Mm-hmm.
I thought you
Oh,
had a date the whole time.
this whole time you didn't know?
No,
Oh yeah.
I never knew you had life. I'm serious. Because
Yeah.
you did a lot of them angry lifers, you were never angry.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Even when you would get into it with somebody, you wasn't angry. You would tell them, hey man, go on. You know what I mean? All right, go on. And then you would go on about your business. You know what I mean? So it
Yeah.
was like, okay, I would always think, well, he got a date. You know what I mean? But
Right.
yeah.
And honestly, I think the reason that I was like that because a lot of the stuff that I was doing, I've been doing all my life. I'm talking about in terms of fighting and hanging out in the street. You got some dudes who want to be big and bad. And they want to have a mean. I don't. That ain't me. I'm gonna handle my business when it's time to handle my business. But outside of that, I'm just the same natural guy. Like sometimes you might get into it with other YouTubers. Me, I'm talking about me. And then you will have people, the people in the comments, oh chill, cuss him out or talk crazy to him. It was one dude that talked all crazy to me, over a video. And I'm telling people that's just not my get down, man. I'm not just to be screaming and hollering. I laugh, I joke, if I happen to see a cat and we got an issue, we'll resolve it one way or other. But as far as just, that's just not me. But dudes want you sometimes to act as how they feel they would have acted.
You know, a lot of people don't understand the prison experience. You know what I mean? And we call people like that cell soldiers.
Right,
You get locked up in the cell, you make all that noise because you hoping the police hear you, separate you guys, one of y'all go to another yard. Because if you serious about what you talking about, ain't no talking.
right, right,
When the doors open, you come out, you handle your business.
right,
Okay? Ain't no, I'm gonna do that. We don't do that. And then like I tell dudes today when I meet them, because I got into it with a couple of people, and they sent me texts. Oh, I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna do next time. And I just delete them and all of that stuff. And people would say, why don't you say something or respond? I said, listen, man. One thing you learn, this is a transcript. So if something happened to dude, the first thing the police gonna do is check his phone
social
and all
media.
his social medias, right?
Right,
And if you on that social media or on a text threatening somebody, you the first suspect.
right,
So
right,
I don't do all of that. You know what I mean? If I got a problem with you, I talk to you person to person, up close and personal.
Right.
You know what I mean? So dudes are like, oh, now I don't have time for all of that. So they don't understand that most guys that been to prison, and if you see a guy that been to prison, he come out acting tough, he was probably on a 1 or 2 yard.
Right.
Because most dudes that actually been to prison, you know that tough man. There's no tough people in prison. None.
Right.
I don't care who you think is big, because you can have a guy with 25-inch arms. It could be 6'5", and nobody's scared of him.
Right.
You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
people look like, oh man, I would be scared. Ain't nobody in there scared of him.
Right. Cause being that big, only thing that's really gonna do, that's just gonna really make somebody go get a weapon. That's all, somebody gonna go
That's
get
it.
something to equalize your size, So yeah,
That's
the
it.
bigger you,
That's it.
saying the bigger you are, the harder you fall is really true in prison, because if you look like you a threat, they just gonna send what they feel is necessary and then some to handle you.
Exactly. Exactly. So instead of getting 1-on-1, you won't get a 5-on-1. So it's, or somebody that ain't gonna say, they're just gonna walk up and cut your throat.
Yeah. Yep.
So
So real quick, KC, last question, man. When did you start coming? When did you start coming to the pen?
um I'm 68. I've been locked up altogether about 35 years.
What year did you start doing time in county jail, and then when did you hit prison for the first time?
Okay, I started doing time in the early 70s, right? I did time at juvenile camp, youth authority, and I went to prison in 1977. That was the first
And
time I was in prison.
so you first went to prison in 77. I first went in 96, which is almost
Almost
21
20
years.
years.
Yeah, so prison was entirely different from the time I hit. Even though it was violent and off the chain, I know it was really serious and off the chain when you first went, right?
Yeah.
So look, y'all, we gonna conclude this right here, man. We gonna do another interview. He gonna talk about his prison experience, BGF, Vanguard, all that type of stuff when they was boxing in prison. So I'm telling y'all, man, it's gonna be a great interview, man. Y'all definitely be sure to tune in, tap in for that interview, man. You already know what time it is. It's your boy 16 to life. Resume normal program.